Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. And I've put together the top 7 key market drivers I look at when analyzing a real estate market. Go to sethferguson.org to download your free copy. Our guest today has over 10 years of experience in residential and multifamily sales, subdivision, and development. In 2014, he retired from real estate at the age of 27 and traveled the world. Warren Singh joins us today. Warren, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Seth, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, really looking forward to this, especially as a guy who retired at age 27. I'm sure you've got some good stories.
No doubt. And you know what? I mean, I think a lot of people could do it if they just, realize what they wanted in life, and realize when to draw the line, when enough is enough. Because I've seen the guys you have on your show. They're very impressive. I'm sure their bank accounts are huge. Their portfolios are enormous, but it came down to me just realizing, what was important for me and, when was I going to draw the line and when was right for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one thing that a lot of beginner investors miss out. You really have to take an introspective approach and think about, what is the reason you're getting into real estate and what you want to accomplish, because you almost have to work backwards from it. You can't just start investing, then try and find your why. It's almost like you need your why and then you
100%.
reverse engineer.
And that was exactly my process too. It was like, what's my end goal, my desired life? And then how can I get there?
Yeah,
exactly it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your real estate goals now, because you're going to be coming at this from a very unique perspective because, you already retired. So what are you looking to do now with your portfolio?
I am looking to expand it. There was a time when I decided to step away. I was really low risk at that point. I felt like I had reached the level where I'm like, okay, if I maintain this and the market goes my way and I continue to expand, modestly, I'm set. And I've been doing that for a while now, since 2014. And complacency has set in. I do miss finding the deal. There's a certain level of excitement and also personal development that goes along with it, and being plugged into the market. So I am looking for more investment opportunities in the next, from now to the next 5 years or so.
Yeah. And, have you set yourself a target for, hey, I want to acquire X number of units or X number of dollar volume?
Not exactly. What I would like to do, I don't have partners in any of my stuff. It's just me. I would love to own maybe an 8 or 10 unit apartment building in Vancouver. And I mean, that's entirely manageable. Don't need partners for it. And I think that would be a nice soft target, because it's all about lifestyle for me. I want to be able to reach that, tuck it away, and then just go on, living my life outside of real estate investment or selling real estate. So yeah, it's not hey, keep going forever. It's have this as my base and something that can fuel the rest of my life or my lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. And, going back to your why, at what point in your life did you discover your why? Because some people, it takes a while.
Yeah, I think I was 21. I was going through a tough time trying to figure things out. The future looked really bleak because at the time I was going to UBC. I wanted to be a physiotherapist. And I was doing the calculations based on the sole practitioner's average salary. And I'm like, there's no way I can make it. I want to support a family. I want to have, nice things. I want to have opportunities. I'm going to be starving if I stick solely to that plan. So that was when I switched directions. And I actually invested in my first property. Actually, it was a couple years before that. Maybe it was about 19 when I started to think about this. And so that's when it started, was, real estate as the answer to my financial security and my financial freedom. I'd seen enough people around me get set up with real estate. And then shortly after making my first purchase, I realized I'm like, okay, this is the way, this is the ticket.
Yeah. And you said that you knew other people involved in real estate. What was it? Because, at 19, usually 19-year-old guys have other things on their mind than buying houses. So
Yeah.
what was it, a book? Was it speaking with somebody? What got you hooked?
Honestly, my dad was the first. He's the one that suggested it. He was a realtor. He's since retired.
Okay.
But luckily enough for me, like he was my first guide. And I mean, he's not a real estate investor, but he turned me on to it. And we actually did our first purchase and renovation together,
Nice.
which was a really great bonding experience. And yeah, that honestly, that set me up quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so right now with your portfolio, what would you say is your number one challenge?
The challenge, well, I mean, the state of the market right now, because my plan was to, let them appreciate, draw equity out, reinvest them. And the past 2 years, so I'm holding single family detached, and our detached market has slid from about 2 years ago to now. So past 2 years, my portfolio has been decreasing. Actually, well, most of it, some of it's gone up, but yeah. So that's the biggest challenge right now is the state of the market and the plan that I had, which I might need to reevaluate. I guess I can't rely on appreciation alone. I've got to start switching to adding value, and then maybe selling or refinancing. But I've got to do something different. Maybe get into more subdivisions again or development.
Yeah. And just for the US listeners, you're on the West Coast of Canada. So there was a foreign buyers tax that was introduced. Then we had a stress test where you had to qualify at 2 percentage points higher than what you were actually paying on your mortgage. So it was spring 2017. That's when things really, the brakes.
And it started before the stress test, before the foreign buyers tax. The market was already sliding about 3 months before that.
Yeah.
And then the stress test kicked in, and it really slammed us hard.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because this is one of the things, I'm just outside of Toronto in Ontario. And this is one of the big things I keep telling people, because everybody was saying, oh, well, it's the stress test that's causing this. When you actually look at the market stats, everything, the mix was there already for a correction before before the stress test was even brought up as a possible policy. Yeah,
100%. And I mean, obviously those changes really slammed us, but it was already in motion.
Yeah. 100%. I'm sure we can debate some other people on that, but that was. I'm a huge numbers stats nerd when it comes to the real estate market. So
for sure.
Yeah. So what sort of routines and rituals have you developed then that have helped make you a successful investor?
Routines. Honestly, analyzing the market every day. I mean, that was another reason why I got into real estate as a profession, was I felt like it was going to help me analyze my own portfolio and find opportunities. So 100% analyzing the market every day, staying on top of, mortgage changes, changes in rental policy or development policy in the area. Just so that, I like to be in control and full knowledge of what I'm doing with my portfolio. So doing that allows me to, to stay sharp and on top of things.
Yeah. And a lot of single family investors hit a capital crunch at some point where they almost run out of capital and they have a hard time getting financing. Did you ever hit that wall? And if so, how did you power through it?
100%. No, Seth, I'm there right now. I'm trying to find ways to finance. And I mean, I might even ask you some questions later, or watch more of your videos. I think, but capital. I've never raised capital outside of what I could do myself. But I mean, we'll talk about this later, I guess, if it's a keystone deal. But my first property that I ever purchased has appreciated so much. And I was actually using that when financing got tight. I was using a line of credit against that property to just bankroll myself, and I didn't need anybody else's permission or approval. Once I had that line of credit, I would just go shoot at things, buy this, sell it, buy this, and sell, and it was quick. I had the cash ready. I didn't need to go through a mortgage approval and all this. I could do subject offers in a busy market. I had I had full control to some degree, right? Because it
Yeah.
was only as much as the line of credit.
Yeah, for sure. And so what prompted your decision then to pack it in and retire at 20? Like, did something happen in your life, or like what brought it about?
Yeah, man, I got well, okay, it was always a plan. I always had a plan to exit. I thought I'd be, 30, maybe 35, because I was selling full time, selling real estate full time, and my work partner and I, we were like hustling like 80, 100 hours a week. We didn't take days off. We were just like addicted to the business, and I was addicted to the business because I was trying to bankroll projects too, right? So the more I made, the more projects I could do, and I got burnt out, and I reached the level of burnout, and I was like, well, one, I was like, if I die tomorrow and I don't get to enjoy any of this stuff that I've built, that will be a shame. Because before that point, I used to think the saddest thing in life would be to be like old and have no money. And that was my biggest fear. So, I mean, now I'm like, okay, well, I won't die old and, and have no money. I'll be able to have a good life. Now, the next biggest fear is not enjoying that now. So I made the decision. I'm like, you know what? I did the math. Enough is enough. Let's go enjoy life. And I think that was it, because you couldn't have paid me $10 million to work another year in real estate at that point. I wouldn't. There was no amount of money that would have made me show up every day and do it.
Yeah. So what sort of changes then did you have to make in your portfolio, or maybe how you managed it, in order to allow you to go off and travel for a couple of years?
Yeah. I mean, it was, how did I manage it? I had great tenants. So the properties, I upgraded all my properties before I left. Actually, I didn't expect to retire. I thought I was going to be away for like 5 or 10 years. I'm just going to drift around. And so I'm like, I'll get them set up. I did my roofs, gutters, drainage work, painting, sealed everything up so no water ingress. And so so maintenance wise, they were pretty much looked after. I had my mom try to look after some of the properties. It wasn't the best idea, because I probably should have just hired a management company when I was gone, because some things got missed, but that was all right. But for the most part, I mean, it was pretty simple. There's more e-transfer now, which would have been easier. I was still collecting checks, and that made it a bit more difficult. So being on e-transfer with technology today, a lot easier to go travel and still make sure you're getting your monthly rent checks.
Oh yeah, like we had one guest on the show, Charlie Dobbins, and his whole thing is he wants to be able to run his portfolio from a pub in Ireland. That's how he thinks about setting everything up, so he can go and do that.
Totally.
Yeah. So let's jump over to that Keystone deal, because we alluded to it.
Yeah. Keystone deal was the very first one I ever purchased in Vancouver. It was top and bottom duplex.
Nice.
Just a shack, actually. Most people would have torn it down. We renovated it. My dad and I, and we hired some professionals as well, because we were pretty much the labor at that point, and we just let the pros tell us what to do. But that was early on. So that was late 2004. Then it was ready for rent in 2005. And at that time, rent covered. Like the mortgage was relatively small. Rent covered everything. I just tucked it away. It grew. I didn't really have a plan at that point, other than, okay, this is great. I got an investment property here. And then when I started to be interested in doing other projects, like after I got my real estate license and was plugged in, then, as I alluded to, the line of credit and the ability for banks to see the equity in my first property, it just opened up, opportunities to finance other projects. And so this one property made it possible to roll into probably like 6 or 7 other properties through line of credit or through mortgage. Without it and investing early on, I definitely would not be at the position I am now.
Yeah.
And just like the compound growth, right? That was like 2005 or 2004. I hit it at a good time, but I've seen like the earlier you can invest, the more compound growth you can have, and just like get in,
Yeah.
I wish I bought more and sooner. Obviously, I think a lot of us probably feel that way. So that's my keystone one. It was the first one. It was my earliest purchase. It's appreciated the most. It's had great cash flow, and that's been my base, I guess.
Yeah. And what was it about that first property that attracted you to it? Was it location or like?
Yeah, 100% the location. It was an up and coming area. It's a neighborhood called Mount Pleasant in East Van. And at the time it was on the edge of like a sort of a posh neighborhood, but it was still like really grunge. Like we had crime going on outside and that kind of stuff, but it was only like a couple blocks away from like a really great street. And actually, it's now, because it's near like a major corridor for transportation and in such a busy hub.
Oh, Warren, are you there? Shit. Hey, are you there?
Lost you there. Yeah, it just froze, and then I got you back now.
Yeah, so same here. Okay, yeah, you had just said busy hub, and then everything kind of went blank.
Okay, so you got it. Yeah. So I guess, I didn't really know at the time that I wasn't sophisticated enough to have that forecast. Looking at it now, I'm like, yeah, buy near a hub, because there's a major road, like not a highway or anything, but it's got a lot of businesses. You got main transit on it, like buses. They're putting in a SkyTrain line, which is like a subway, right? Just a few blocks from my house. So we're all being rezoned right now for higher density, like condos.
Yeah. So how do you approach, because obviously, Vancouver has experienced some, tremendous growth. We've had some corrections in the past couple of years. Comparing how you bought your first property, that duplex, to how you acquired your subsequent properties at maybe, a lot less cash flow, how did your strategy have to change?
How did it have to change with less cash flow?
Yeah.
Okay. You mean because cap rate went down?
Yeah, like cap rates have been compressing. So
Yeah.
how have you as an investor had to change how you acquire properties because of that?
Well, okay. Afterward, I was having to buy property and rent wasn't covering. So I was actually having to support it. I was having to support it for a couple of years until I caught up. And now they're in the green, but there were a couple times where, and even now, like if you buy with 20% down right now in Vancouver, you're having to float it still. Yeah. I think you probably need 35%, and then you might be okay, 35%.
Yeah, but then you have, do I want to sink in an extra 10, let's say 10 to 15% of capital into the deal, or is it better just to take that negative gearing and kind of run with it for a couple of years?
Yeah, whatever your comfort is for your level of risk in your plan. But yeah. I'll tell you what, because of this, I'm actually looking outside of Vancouver now. I looked at Vancouver as like a safe, AAA city for investing. And I'm starting to look at other opportunities like in the States. And I know you are. Yeah. I made a trip down to Detroit last year to look at some stuff. The cap rates are insane. Some of the other characteristics make me nervous, but I think there's so it's caused me to look outside of just Vancouver and look for other opportunities that cash flow better, but hopefully are also going to appreciate based on other factors.
Yeah, it's interesting because you get some investors, so there's like the 2% rule, the 1% rule, but then you look at a market like, let's say Vancouver, no rules apply there. It's a totally different strategy on how to build your portfolio.
Yeah.
Actually, we had Chris Gray. He invests in Sydney, Australia. He's got a TV show as well. And his whole outlook on negative gearing in his portfolio is different from anybody else I've ever spoken with. So he'll actually take the negative gearing, but he's going to refi his properties almost every year, take out whatever equity he can, even though the properties are losing, let's say, 20 grand a year, because he's banking on that doubling at every market cycle. It is really, really unique. Yeah, very ballsy. So if anybody's interested in that, you can just search for the interview with Chris Gray. That was a really interesting.
You know what I am interested in? I don't know if can we talk about it?
Yeah, for sure.
Any guys that are doing? I mean, somebody coined it the BRRRR method.
Yeah.
Like buy, renovate. What is it?
Rent, refinance, repeat.
Yeah. Exactly. My challenge with that is like I'm trying to. Okay, I get the whole adding, renovating, adding value, refinancing. Like if you can get like 80% loan to value, but the banks here still want income qualification. So I'm not seeing how to do that. Like I know guys in the States are doing it, people are talking about it, but how do you actually accomplish that?
Yeah, it's in where you're at and where I'm at just outside of Toronto, you can't really do a true BRRRR method.
Yeah.
Like it just like it doesn't really work. And so I think, and this is a good lesson for anybody who's doing any sort of research on the internet, you have to take whatever you're reading and actually apply it to the fundamentals in your own market, because, financing is totally different. In the US you have, 30-year mortgages where you're locked in. Here you have that balloon payment after, let's say, 4 or 5 years. And, qualifying is different. Though I did have a good interview with Darren Voros in Toronto. He just did a triplex and he was able to pull out all of his initial capital doing it. But he basically knocked down the building and built a brand new triplex on it. And then he caught the upswing in the market as well. But yeah, that income qualification makes it really, really tough, especially if you have a portfolio in that, let's say AAA market, where your cap rates are super, super compressed.
Yeah.
But 100. Nobody said it was easy.
I'm like, am I a fool? All these guys seem to be doing it. Like, what am I missing? Did I not have the right contacts or what? But yeah. We can chat. We can chat some more about it. I'll tell you some good horror stories. Sounds good.
Yeah. So let's get into how real estate has impacted your life then. Obviously you were able to retire, but what other things has it done for you?
Honestly, it's all personal stuff, really. I think number one, like it's allowed me to live a truer life, like more on like my authentic path. I've always kind of been wanting to get there. And, I've got a lot more time for family. Cause one of the things was like, I never wanted to be pulled away from friends or family or from other, personal obligations for work. So it's allowed me to say no to like a lot of stuff that that don't align with my values or, what I'm, or my goals at the time or this time in my life. So it's given me a lot more free time, the freedom to do more of what I love, which is spend time with people that I care about, do, fun activities or explore or, work on passion projects. And kind of like, it just allows, like life feels like play. I just, if I don't want to set an alarm, I don't need to. I'm not saying that's a good habit, but the freedom to do that is really nice.
Yeah.
Go work out midday, go for a hike midday, go on a trip. That kind of stuff. It just feels very fluid. I don't feel constrained by like, hey, I've got to show up every day and do something regardless of whether I want to do it or not. So that like on the daily thing. And then also, the whole reason of why, I wanted to get into real estate and investing was so that I could get set up and have a family one day and not worry about supporting us and not worry about working too much and being away from them. So like, I feel blessed to like be in that position now where, when I'm going to start a family, I feel at ease about it. I feel like, yeah, we're going to be great.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
looking ahead, let's say 10 years from now, where do you see yourself with your portfolio in 10 years?
I mean, 10 years, if you look at, the real estate cycle, just, doing nothing alone, I mean, I guess it's probably doubled.
Yeah.
But I would like to take action. I would like to get that 10-unit apartment building either in Vancouver or something of equal value somewhere else, whether it be in the States or some other city. Nothing crazy, but I think, something like that is probably maybe valued around $5 million or something like that. Maybe at like a 5% cap would be awesome. So probably have to be outside of Vancouver for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, higher cash flow would be good. I've done the appreciation game long enough, and I'm looking. It'd be nice to get into some nice returns, cash flow. Yeah.
And well, just to look at the way rents have dramatically increased over the past couple of years out where you are, just imagine, in another 10 years where rents will likely be hovering.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I guess they seem to follow the real estate market. I think rents lag here maybe a couple of years or maybe a year and a half, but behind the actual like sales and the pricing on homes. And since our decline, I have noticed a little bit less pressure on the rental market as well. But it's still maintaining a lot better than our home sale prices. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it'll be really interesting. Like this is one of the things that really intrigues me is, how Toronto, Vancouver, and Canada are going to be reacting over the next, couple of years. Just because we've seen the last time we've seen growth like this was, in the late 1980s. And so it's that 10-year cycle, but also that 20-year real estate cycle. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I like to get excited about the way rents are going just from a, investor perspective. But I mean, talking about that out loud here is going to get a lot of people upset, like a lot of people that are in the rental market. I think the general population is wanting it to go the other way because they don't own real estate and they're renting, right? So I think, there's a lot of people fighting against us here.
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. And then that brings me to rent control, and that's a whole different rant. I need like 3 hours.
We should do one on that too, because what they're doing in the city here, I think, is making it worse. Actually, 100% making it worse for the renters.
Absolutely. You know what? We should have you back on, and we'll do like a whole episode on just rent control.
I would love to, because it's the whole development side of things too. It's making it a really poor choice for developers and investors to create more units, and more supply. But we can get into that another time. I'm really passionate about that too.
Oh, same with me. Yeah. Well, once you get me going, there's no stopping. So,
awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, listen, like if somebody's looking to get in touch, Warren, and, reach out, learn more about what you're doing, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can visit me at bellairrealty.ca is the real estate website, but also on Instagram. Actually, find me on Instagram. My personal one is warrenjames, James, just my middle name. That's my personal account. It's open. Feel free to follow me on that. I just started this real estate little blog project with my business partner, my sister, Tony. It's called Real Estate with Real People. It's just like a human approach to, what we're doing. So you can follow us on there too. That's Instagram, Real Estate with Real People. But my personal one, if you want to connect on there first.
That's great. Well, Warren, just want to say thanks so much. Had a great time chatting with you. And I'm sure the American audience have really enjoyed hearing about all the different situations in Canada.
Awesome, Seth. Thank you so much for having me. I hope to chat again.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. And to you, our viewers, I wish you well on your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.